We did it, guys. We delivered our first round of containers to Oklahoma. They turned out incredible. So can't wait for you to see the finished product. Now in this video, what I wanna do is I wanna walk you through the entire process at the finish line of us getting these units delivered. It really came down to crunch time. We had to pull multiple really late nights working till midnight to try to get things done. But what I wanna break down for you is how we loaded up all the containers, how we transport our containers. Now we built this in Las Vegas, Nevada. This project was in Broken Bow, Oklahoma, over 1,000 miles away. People always wonder, can you ship container homes finished? Is there going to be damage? What if the interior is drywall? All those kinds of questions. So I want to walk you through that. And then I also want to walk you through the offload and the installation of these container homes. These went on foundations. So I want to talk to you about different foundations that people are using, how we did these units in particular, and then the easiest way to install them. Finally, at the very end, I'm going to reveal some of the final photos of the completed units now that they're 100% done. So you're going to definitely want to catch that. And let's dive right in. All right, so like I mentioned earlier, this was very stressful, okay? Trying to get all these units done in a tight timeline for our client. They have investors that are buying these. They're gonna be using them as Airbnb rentals. They wanna get them on the market. They wanna catch the nice holiday seasons and the rush when people are coming into town. And so they wanted these yesterday, right? And as the builder, any builders out there, you know, when a client wants it ASAP, you got to do everything you can to try to make that happen. And so we ended up doing some super late nights, working till midnight. Funny side note, we're in Vegas where wood siding is typically smooth. Usually when you see a building here, it's more of a modern look with wood siding. We're not from Oklahoma. We're not from Texas. But out there, they like the rough side out. So guys, we cladded the entire exterior of these things with the smooth side out. And yeah, rookie mistake. I'll take some ownership there. But that's just how we do stuff here. It's smooth side out. And so we did that, and the owners wanted it rough side out. So I'm not kidding when I say we removed all of the exterior siding on the entire outside of 6 40-foot containers. And yeah, had to switch those around, buy a bunch of new lumber. So it was a crazy, crazy finish line to this project. But we got it done. Now, I want to talk you through kind of how we do what we do in terms of like, okay, the project's done. It's got to get to the end client. What are those next steps? How do you deliver containers? How do you install them? How do you navigate the foundations? And so we'll kick off just with the delivery side of it. Now, one of the things that we do that's pretty unique with our units is all of our rooftop decks, which these units had. We had multiple rooftop decks being used on this project. They're all collapsible. So we're basically able to have those rooftop decks 100% completed and installed. We collapse the railings on the top for transportation. And then once they get on site, those railings will just pop up and get interconnected. So really simple process. So we got that part of it kind of figured out. That part worked well. With these were pretty heavy units. These 40-foot containers not only had 40-foot rooftop decks up top, they also had the exterior siding, a lot of heavy interior furnishings that were completed. And so these units were heavy. They weighed over 20,000 pounds. At our yard, we just have a 15K forklift. So we actually had to get a crane involved. So we had, I believe it was like a 60-ton crane come out. And so we actually used them to now lift each of these containers up individually and place them on the trailers. When we're trying to coordinate shipping for containers, there's a number of ways that you can do this. You can work with companies like uship.com and try to coordinate with independent drivers for your load. You just basically list it on there. People will bid on it. You can put a suggested price. Or what we do a lot of times is we just work with brokers. We have third-party brokers that we've developed relationships with. And so we'll give them all the information that we have in terms of this is where they need to be picked up. Here's the dimensions of the units, the weights of the units. Here's where they need to go. And then they get us the quote. So that's what we did this time. We worked with one of our brokers, John and Chad, who essentially organized all the shipping side of it, which is really nice for us because it does take that weight off of our shoulders. So their trucks arrive. We used flatbed trucks. Part of the reason we use flatbed trucks is it's a little more cost effective, especially going this distance, over 1,000 miles away. If you try to use a tilt bed truck, the cost per mile can be really high. So with flatbed trucks, you could be closer to like $2.50 a mile. On tilt beds, you may be closer to $5 a mile. It just depends where they're going, if they can get a return load. and things like that. So we got all these loaded up. It was a lot of ingenuity and maneuvering. We did need to make sure that as the crane was picking these units up, it wasn't going to crush the corner of the wood. So that was a lesson. We didn't think too much about that. So we put some styrofoam there to try to just separate it and not cause damage. We went through that process, got them all loaded up onto the trailers, got them secured to the trailers. Now, one of the things that was interesting is these units actually had 3-foot overhangs. They go over the front door, and that was a little bit problematic, especially when it came to shipping 2 20-foot containers. You know, typically it's a 40-foot deck, and you can easily fit 2 regular containers. But because we had those 3-foot overhangs, we basically kind of had to like intermarry these containers to each other, overlapping them to try to save as much space as possible and basically get these over there in one trip. Because these trips to Oklahoma were not cheap, guys. I mean, total shipping, we had 4 units leave from Vegas, 2 units leave from New Mexico. Gosh, we had to be, God, I don't even know, close to $20,000, $15,000 to $20,000 in shipping, especially once you include some of the cost to load up the units. Now, what was exciting about this one is I don't always get to go on the trips to be part of the installs. A lot of times it's smaller projects and it's just not a cost-effective thing for us to do. We'll work with a lot of local contractors to facilitate the install. But in this instance, because we were sending 6 containers, because this is part of the largest container home community in the US, it was an exciting opportunity to be part of that. So as soon as these containers got loaded up and on their way to Oklahoma, I went ahead and hopped on a plane and flew into Dallas and made my way to Broken Bow, Oklahoma to try to beat the containers there. Now, these units made their way onto the property. It was a beautiful property, tons of green trees everywhere, definitely nothing like Las Vegas. And the developer of this project, they actually have, I think it's about 22 acres or so. Each acre is gonna have 2 container homes on it. So in total, it'll probably be about 45 container homes, which is really exciting. They already have 1 unit there. We're now bringing units for 2 other lots. So it's a total of 4 homes. 2 of them that are single 40-foot container homes. Then the other 2 are going to be a 40-foot on the bottom with a 20-foot container on top. Now, one of the things we underestimated, and it's something that's hard to do remotely, you know, us being in Vegas, we try to do our best to use Google Maps and, you know, just trying to understand from the owner, the layout of the property, how hard is it going to be to get on the land. And man, it turned out to be extremely difficult. So we were able to get to the lots okay. There was enough space to make that happen. There is some funny moments where we're trying to find the drivers. There's not good cell phone service up there. So people are getting to what they think is the address, but it's kind of hard to find the address because it pins it at different areas. So we end up finally, you know, finding these different truck drivers and get everyone close to the property. And as we start to get people onto the property, we get to the point where the lots got graded, the roadways got made. And unfortunately, the first 2 drivers were not able to and not willing to back up into the lots where we needed those containers to go so that we could properly offload them with the cranes. They said they've been drivers for over 25 years and that it was an impossible task. And so, man, it put us in a tough spot, guys, because we had spent, you know, a few $1,000s for the crane to be there. We're ready for offloading. I flew into town for this, and you know, sure enough, we're up against a challenge here. Thankfully, the crane company did have a truck that had a shorter bed length on it. So essentially the wheelbase was going to be shorter as well. And what that meant is that they were going to be able to transfer the unit from the 40-foot trailer to the 30-foot trailer. And because it has a smaller wheelbase, the crane operator was confident that they'd be able to make the tight turn to get it back into the property. Now, as you'll see in these video clips, it is a really tight turn, guys. Just getting from the front of the driveway to the foundation area where we needed to crane these units off probably took us about an hour. So even though a couple of these truck deliveries were delayed, it actually worked out fine because on day 1, I think it was just 3, maybe 4 units that we were able to offload. And that put us at, you know, 7 p.m. at night. The crane company, it was an hour away. They had to get back. So long story short is we navigated each of these containers individually and were able to get them back into the areas where they needed to be offloaded. And just how we loaded them with cranes. Similarly, we offloaded them with cranes onto the foundations. Now, there's a number of different types of foundations that you can use when you're considering doing a container home. You can do a monolithic slab foundation. You can just go with a simple slab. You can do a stem wall foundation. You can do piers. You can do footers. If it's more temporary, there's other things you can do, just compacted gravel or things like that. Now here they ended up doing some piers. Part of that was due to the elevation. These properties were not graded flat, and there was about maybe a 2 to 3 foot elevation change from one end of the container where it was going to sit to the other end of the container. So because of that, they ended up doing piers. Now you'll see here they did a pier for each corner of the container. We do recommend adding additional piers in the middle to provide that additional support, especially for something like a 40-foot container. So in this instance, they don't have it here at this moment. It is something that they are adding. Now we were able to get them onto the piers, and the owner had a metal plate that was basically embedded into the top of those piers. The metal plate was about 12 inches by 12 inches. And that allows us to now weld those corners to the piers. And so we're able to do, which we recommend is doing basically a 6-inch weld on each side of the knuckle. So you have ideally over 10 inches of continuous welding on each knuckle, securing it to a pier. That's gonna help make sure that that thing is stable. It's not gonna go anywhere. And ultimately, if there is high winds, there's not going to be hurricanes out there. If there's tornadoes, things like that, you're properly secured to the foundation. Now, day one came to a close. We had 4 units down, and I had to fly out the next morning at like 8 a.m. in the morning because I had my sister's wedding. So I wasn't part of the next several units that got installed. But I want to give you a little bit of an update. Okay, now the units have been 100% installed. The 20-footers are on top of the 40-foot containers. And the client had a desire of putting decks out on the front of them. So they finished building out the decks on the front of the units. They added spiral staircases to get up to the top rooftop deck areas. And at this point, they're fully furnished. Now, I'm going to do a part 2 trip where I go out there and do a video with you just to reveal everything. But I want to at least show you some of the photos now of how it turned out. Now, first, this photo is of one of the 2-story units, and they look amazing. It's funny how from the outside, they almost don't even look like a container home, right? So with all the wood siding, it really gives it a nice cabin feel, especially for this environment. You can see there we did the nice 20-foot rooftop deck. We got an overhang on the 40-footer and on the 20-footer. Now, this is one of the other units. It's the single 40-foot container with the 40-foot rooftop deck on the very top. Super clean look. This is a 1-bedroom model. And on the inside of these units, they're really beautiful. I know some of the previous videos you may have seen how they started to look, but I want to just show you how the kitchens turned out. Really awesome cabinetry, floating shelves, quartz countertops. If you look into the bathrooms were done super nice, super clean and crisp with the white subway tile. The bedroom area is a cute little space. If you've seen previous videos, you know we talked about trying to make the interior walls of the bedroom as slim as possible and how that was going to allow for more room for a bed and nightstands on each side. We went ahead and put the little sconce lights there next to the nightstands as well. And then finally in the front area was the living room. Now this was a space that not only you could sit down and eat at, but also a place with a sofa Murphy bed. You could enjoy TV and some movies on the sofa or convert it into a bed if you need the additional sleeping. Now, finally, one of my favorite features of these homes are the container glass entry doors. And I love them because of the views that they have. These are really nestled into nature, nestled into the forest in a lot of ways, so that when you're walking out of those doors, you're literally walking out into nature. So especially with the decks, some of them are elevated up in the air, so you're almost even have kind of like a treehouse feel when you're on the inside of them. So that really is one of my favorite features and one of the best things about these homes in particular. Now we get people all the time asking us, how do we do what we do? And that's why we make content like this, to show you what we do, show you how to do it. One of the things I recently created that I want to share with you, I'm really excited about, is I launched an ebook called Containerology. This is an ebook condensing all of our knowledge on how to build shipping container homes. And so in previous videos, you've heard about the free training that we offer. In the link right below this video, there's a link to that. You can check out the free training. It's about 50 to 60 minutes long. It's going to go in depth on some of the key things that we've learned in building container homes and kind of dropping some really good knowledge information for those of you that are looking to build your own. But you're also going to get a link to get a discount to our new book, Containerology. So I'd encourage you, go ahead and click that link below. If you're someone that's serious about building a container home, the book is really cheap, okay? So you can buy it, very low cost, and you'll be super happy with it. We do have a course as well called Containerology, which is a more in-depth opportunity. So if you get the book and you're like, man, I actually really do want to build a container home, then that's where I would say, go ahead and get the course. It's going to pay off. You're going to get plans in the course, build documents, material lists, project schedules, step-by-step instructions. It's literally everything you would need to build a container home. So if you do want more information on that, that is linked below. And thank you guys so much for being part of this journey on this amazing project that we had the opportunity to be part of. I want to say thank you to Seek Micro Cabins, the company that is actually developing this property. So you can go ahead and check them out. I'll include their information in the description below, especially for those of you that might be looking for an investment. Maybe this is something that interests you. Maybe you're from that region. You love the opportunity to have your own Airbnb rental and also enjoy it for personal use. This could be a great opportunity. Definitely connect with those guys. Dane and Dirk, who run Seek Micro Cabins, are amazing. And with that, hope you enjoyed this video. Look forward to seeing you on the next one. Eventually, we will do a final reveal as well, showing you video footage of this completed project.